Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation. With me, your host, Owen James, the channel that brings you your team every single day, guys. Up to date, bringing you all the latest Rangers news. Ahead of another weekend of football, ahead of another game coming up this weekend. It is Dundee this weekend, and it's all part of the Ibrox celebrations, the 125-year celebrations this weekend. Of course, the club have announced that obviously the commemorations will be going ahead this weekend. It's to look forward to, isn't it? To look forward to celebrating 125 years of, as Patrick Stewart in his interview in the week called it, an iconic ground. It truly is one of the most iconic grounds in world football, and we are so fortunate that Ibrox is our home, aren't we? Just absolutely fortunate. And look, I mean, a game to look forward to. If Rangers hopefully can take the form they've been showing in recent games into this weekend's game, hopefully it will be a convincing win for the boys and a fair few goals coming off the back of it as well. That would be nice, wouldn't it? A bit of a display, a bit of a performance, and some goals to boot would be fabulous for Rangers this weekend. Obviously, a lot depends on who he starts with, how he starts. And I think something the big thing as well is he's had a week to prepare. He's had a week off. Obviously no midweek games, no Wednesday game, no Thursday game this week, which obviously is a big thing, isn't it? We've been so used to playing the in the cycle of Sunday, Thursday, Saturday. Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, sorry. To actually now be in a situation where we've had a week off, a week to work with the players, a week to get the players back fit and raring to go. And hopefully we'll start to see the likes of Oscar Cortez returning to the squad. And hopefully Oscar will get the opportunity to play this week. And it'd be nice to have Cortez back ahead of the Christmas programme. A lot coming up there, isn't there? Right, look, I didn't really want to talk about the VAR thing again. I really wanted to kind of put that behind us and kind of move on from that. I agree with this, Caleb. Hopefully it's a driving force. Hopefully it is a real situation where we're going to take it and use it as fuel now to take us on for the rest of the season. That's got to be the big hope, hasn't it? But like I said, I didn't really want to talk about the VAR situation again. I think it's getting a bit boring now. There's nothing we can do about it. We need to kind of move on from the situation. But I don't know if any of you have seen it yet, but the VAR show obviously was out yesterday, and of course the comments and the VAR audio was released, and I've got to say it is damning, isn't it? It is absolutely damning. Willie Collum spoke a little bit about the incident. He called it an unacceptable decision. He called it a wrong decision. He called it unacceptable, which is spot on. It was unacceptable at the end of the day, and it was just sheer bad, pathetic officiating from the two of them. But I think if you listen to the VAR audio, it's quite worrying. I mean, how quickly they move on from the incident. It's quite quickly how easily the incident is dismissed by Muir and O'Connor. Look, I don't want to put fuel on the flames. I don't want to add to the conspiracy theory, but it's almost as if they were kind of saying, yeah, let's get this discussed quick and let's get this moved on from quick, because I don't really want to talk about this anymore, because the more we go on about it, the more we might actually see something that we need to give a penalty kick for. It was so quickly dismissed. And like I said, if you haven't seen the VAR audio yet, you haven't actually listen to it, I would give it a listen. Give it a listen. It's quite criminal. It really genuinely is. How quickly that decision is moved on from, and how quickly the whole situation is kind of dismissed by. Interesting solution. Interesting that Willie Collum also talked about accountability, and he talked about one of my big things, across football. And I'm not just talking about the SPL, I'm talking about all football, SPL, EPL, EFL, whatever, is accountability. And he talked about accountability. He talked about the fact that officials are held accountable. It's just not put out there and publicly released, the same way he said that players are held accountable within the for their actions within clubs, and they're not released. So I suppose he has actually got a decent point there. We don't expect him to come out and publicly call out call out Muir, call out O'Connor, and tell us what's happened to them. I suppose that is an internal matter. It's internal discipline, and hopefully something has been done. But yeah, absolutely. Look, like I said, it's just, I think, this is the time, hopefully, now we've kind of heard from Willie Collum that, that it was the wrong decision, it was an unacceptable decision, and they're trying their best to learn from it. Look, I've had my say on this. I've said enough on this now. It was a penalty. It was bad officiating. As to whether or not it was corruption, as to whether or not it was deliberate misleading, as to not where it was just genuinely turning a blind eye because it was against Celtic, I don't know, and I genuinely will never know. We'll never know. We'll never know unless somebody comes out in 20 or 30 years' time and admits that they did it and admits that they refereed or they made decisions in favour of Celtic or Rangers or whoever. We're never going to know the truth. And I think, now is the perfect time for us to kind of say, let's draw a black line underneath it. Let's move on. And let's, I think you just said a minute ago, let's use this final as a kind of a marker to move on from it and really push it on now. And, I think we've got to take the encouragement, haven't we, out of that final. Yes, we didn't win. Yes, we lost on penalties, but we still had head to head with them for the whole of the 120 minutes. We still were as good as them, if not better than them. And I think the other thing that you've got to kind of take from it is they're not unstoppable. They're not unstoppable. They're not unbeatable. They're not Real Madrid. They're not that the juggernaut that was Man City previously. They're not none of those teams. They're a very ordinary football team that can be got at. That really can be got at, and we've got to take that positiveness from that. Robert, aka Crim, says, I'm very hopeful for the long term with Patrick Stewart and Fraser and Thornton at the helm. I also support Philippe Clement, Niels Coppen and the rebuild. We are heading in the right direction. And I think, Robert, what you're saying there is right. There's a lot more positivity around the club now. There's a lot more feeling that things are finally starting to move in the right direction. It's kind of just a shame that we're sat here on the 19th of December and it's taken until December now for everything to seemingly move in the right direction. I think a lot of fans are saying, well, why couldn't this have been done at the start of the season? Why couldn't this done before the season started? Why couldn't we have had this, before games got underway, so that we had a direction straight from the off, and we're not kind of playing catch up, which we are again doing in the league to them. So I think you are right. You are right to support the manager and the director of football. You're right to support the CEO, and where we've got to look at it in terms of why is it taking so long, and hopefully now this is the kind of line in the sand, and we move on from it. Certainly, that we got to hope that is there. Matt, how you doing, buddy? Just sick of being cheated, happening too often now for it not to be in corruption. It's almost every time we play them now. I mean, I think there's going to be an awful lot of scrutiny, shall we say, of the decision making of the referees, of the VAR and the AVAR on the 2nd of January when we play them again in the league. There's going to be a lot of people looking at that and saying, right, if something bad and dodgy happens in that game, then I think, it's going to start to raise more and more questions. It really will. And I think, there's got to be a real drive within the SFA and within the refereeing fraternity that they make sure that this next game, when it completes at the end, at whatever time it finishes on the 2nd of January, I'm not quite sure what the kickoff time is, but that when that game's over, that we're not sitting here and we're not discussing match officials and we're not discussing refereeing decisions, and we're discussing the game and we're discussing the events of the game, and hopefully we're discussing a Rangers victory. Hopefully we're discussing a positive display from Rangers. But who knows? That's what we want to be discussing. Football fans don't want to discuss match officials. We don't. We want to discuss our players. We want to discuss our performances. We want to discuss our players. We want to discuss how the game went. We don't want to sit here and nearly a week down the line still be talking about decisions made by referees and referees' assistants and VAR officials. We want to be talking about the game. And hopefully on the 2nd of January, the 3rd of January, we'll be doing that. We'll be talking about a very good old firm game with a Rangers victory. That's what we all want, and that's what hopefully we'll be talking about. Janet, it's never good. Look, I think, no matter what, it's never, ever, ever gonna make anyone feel any better, is it? It isn't gonna make anyone feel any better. So what? It was the wrong decision. Yeah, it was the wrong decision, but nothing nothing can happen as a result of it. You know, the game isn't going to be replayed. They're not going to give us the trophy. You know, at the end of the end of the day, it's over. It's done and dusted. It's time to move on. We put it behind us now, and we talk about the future. We talk about obviously the games upcoming. We've got a few games upcoming, obviously against Dundee. That's our next game, I think. I've still got a slide here. Oh yeah, yeah. So we've got. I mean, these are the next few games that are upcoming for the club. We've got Dundee on Saturday. A Saturday 3 o'clock, guys. A Saturday 3 o'clock. A Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff for Rangers. I mean, when was the last time we had a 3 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday? I mean, I can't remember it. Can't remember it. I mean, football, when God intended it to be played, 3 o'clock on a Saturday. You know, wow. I mean, that's amazing. Then we follow that up with a Thursday game. So we're back on that weekend, Thursday, Sunday run again, this time against St Mirren away in the league. Motherwell away then on the Sunday, the 29th. So the Boxing Day game is away at St Mirren, then on the 29th against Motherwell. Then just a few days. It's not that far away, is it? I mean, I think it's going to be here rather sooner than we think it's going to be here. Thursday, the 2nd of January, Celtic at home. I mean, that's massive, massive game, and huge game upcoming, that one. And I want to talk. We'll talk a little bit about that. Obviously, I mean, we'll talk about more about it in the run up to it on the 2nd. But you know, it's a huge game. It's a huge game. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff. You know, it's going to be buzzing, isn't it? Absolutely buzzing. And then on the 5th of January, we have got Hibs away. Hibs away. I mean, you look at that run into the Celtic game on the 2nd, and you look at, you know, you look at those 3 games, and you've got to say, you know, in the form that we are currently in the way that we are currently playing, that's got to be 9 points. That's got to be 9 points. There's no excuses there. It's got to be 9 points. It cannot be any less. It cannot be a situation where we drop any more points. Now we've got to take the full 9 points from those games. You know, to take anything less than 9 points from those 3 games in the run up to the Celtic game is unforgivable. You know, really would be unforgivable. You know, we've got to be going into that game on the back of 3 victories, putting the most pressure on them as possible. I'm not saying that, you know, they're going to drop any points between now and then. I mean, I very much doubt they will drop any points between now and then. I mean, I'm just quickly trying to find their fixtures for the next 3 before our game with them. You know, it's unlikely that they're going to lose any points. So, look, at the end of the day, it is going to be a situation where we do need to go into that game on the back of 9 points, on the back of playing some good football, on the back of playing well, on the back of actually turning positive performances into points, into goals, and looking like a confident team, so that we take that into the next game and we take that forward. You know, that's got to be the aim, hasn't it? That really does need to be the aim. Their next games, these are their next games. Sunday the 22nd, they've got Dundee United. That is away. So that's at Tannadice. Then they've got 2 home games. On the 26th, they've got Motherwell, and then they've got St Johnstone. You've really got to say that out of those 3 games, the only one where you could perhaps see them dropping any points would be Dundee United away. At most, it'll be a draw. So, I mean, realistically, they're going to come off the back of 3 wins as well. I mean, 2 wins and a draw in an ideal world. You know, who knows? I mean, look, let's face it. We play on the Saturday, they play on the Sunday. How often has that happened in recent times? Can we have a situation where we actually, you know, we go into that game on Saturday, we beat Dundee, we beat them well, we play some good football, we score a few goals, 3-4-0 perhaps. We put some pressure on them. You know, they've had no pressure on them this season whatsoever. You know, yes, their lead is 11 points. Yes, it would only be down to 8 points, but it's still, you know, that element of closing it down a little bit, and the fact that Rangers are coming back at them, and they will come out of that final. And no matter what their fans say on social media or what you've heard from them all week, you know, in your factories, in your jobs, in your homes, on the radio, what you've heard from them all week, their fans will know that we are in a position now where we are starting to challenge them. We're starting to get back to being a force to be reckoned with, and we're starting to put performances in where we've got to be taken seriously, and it's not going to be a canter for them anymore. And it's not going to be an easy walk in the park for them anymore. And that's going to be positive. And hopefully, you know, we can start to put together some positive results and put some pressure on them. Janet, they're not unstoppable or unbeatable. That's why the refs step in. Like I said, I I can get that. I understand that, and we've got to kind of try and move on from it a little bit. We need to get behind the manager. Look, we do, because look, whatever your thoughts are on Philippe Clement now, whether you're part of the Clement in or the Clement out crowd, wherever you are with your thoughts on Clement at the moment. Let me just say this to you: he ain't going anywhere. I mean, I realistically think that even if we were to lose to Celtic on the second, he will be here till the end of the season. I think the board have kind of made that clear. I think John Gilligan made that clear. I think Patrick Stewart's made that clear. That this is part of this project. This is part of this rebuild. This is part of the they're trying to put Rangers back together as a big club again. And I think the situation, I'll rephrase that, as a winning club again, as a trophy winning club again. I think he's here to the end of the season. He'll be given the January window. He'll be given every opportunity to, for the rest of the season. I think, had we not seen the uplifting performances as we've seen over the past few weeks against Killie, against Spurs, against Celtic, we wouldn't perhaps going, if we'd seen the same chronic, boring, dreadful football over those 3 games and three miserable defeats. And then obviously we'd have, dropped points coming out of these games, maybe of the next 3, and then lost them on the second. Then, yeah, I could actually see a situation where Patrick Stewart and Fraser Thornton would sack him on the third. But I'll be honest with you, unless it's an absolute humiliation on the second, which I don't think it will be, I genuinely don't believe he gets the sack. I genuinely believe they will give him at least till the end of the season. And then at the end of the season, they will take stock of where we're up to, where we are with the manager, where we are with the rebuild. I genuinely don't believe that he's going to get the sack, no matter what happens on the second. I genuinely don't. Robert says, the change in system and personnel have made a huge difference. Fair play to the gaffer for making those changes and acknowledging what he was doing wrong. Yeah, spot on. I mean, Robert, I couldn't have put it better myself, mate. I think one of the things that he had been heavily criticised for going into that to the Killie game, I think it was, where he made the first changes in this, was the fact that people were saying he's too inflexible, he won't change, he's too married to a system, he's too married to a set of players, he's too tactically inflexible, he won't make any changes, he won't change what he wants to do the way he wants to do it. And I think for me, the positivity is that he's actually acted on that feedback that he's received from fans, from analysts, no doubt from people within the club as well. And the players have probably had something to say on it as well. And he's actually changed, he's actually adapted, and he's actually changed, the way that we do things. And he's changed the personnel, he's changed the way we play. And, fair play to him. Look, I called for his head. I called him, useless, clueless, etc., etc. But look, fair play to the man. He's come out, he's turned it round. And look, one thing I want to put right on this is, look, people are going to say, well, oh, you've changed your tune and, you this and that and the other. Mate, I'll tell you this. I'm happy to. Look, realistically, right, who wants to be sitting here? Who wants to be sitting here and saying, our manager's shit, our manager's awful, let's sack him, let's get another manager in? Because we get another manager in, and what changes? Well, we have to change again. We might have to change the way we play. We might have to change this, might have to change that, might have to change the other. And we're back in square one. And look, nobody's more delighted than me than Clement has done what I think a lot of people said that he couldn't do, which is turn it round and start to turn the fan base round again. I'm not saying that he's completely turned the fan base round again, of course. He's not. I mean, he's still got something to prove. And look, if we were to go and give another miserable performance on Saturday against Dundee, and we were not to win easily or to put on display and score some goals, and then we were to drop points against St Mirren or Motherwell, and then we were to be beaten by Celtic, yeah, I think the pressure's right bang on bang. The pressure will be right back bang on him, and there will be again a rise of Clement out. But at the moment, he's turned it round. At the moment, he's got it moving in the right direction. And at the moment, he's proving a point. He's proving his doubters wrong. He's proving his critics, of which I was one. He's proving us all wrong. And great. Fantastic. Look, I mean, one of the things I want to address is I don't take any joy in sitting here and saying he's shit, he's terrible, we're awful, we're garbage, we're pathetic, we're a waste of space, we're a rubbish football team. I don't take any pleasure from that. You know what? Any Rangers fan that takes pleasure from sitting there and saying we're rubbish, we're terrible, we're awful, blah de blah de blah, is not a real Rangers fan. They genuinely isn't a real Rangers fan. it just isn't. And I think that's something we've got to kind of look at. And I think, like I said, if any Rangers fan is sitting there, wanting to come out and criticise, wanting to come out and slag the team off, then you're not a real fan at the end of the day. If that's what you want to happen, if you want us to lose, or if you want us to play badly so that you can get back on the Clement out bandwagon, then you're not a real fan. You're not a true fan. We all want the team to do well. We all want the team to win. None of us want to sit there at 5 o'clock on a Saturday or 5 o'clock on a Sunday or 10 o'clock on a Thursday night and be bloody miserable because we've just watched an absolutely garbage performance and another poor display and some more dreadful sideways, backwards, boring football. None of us want that. None of us want to watch that. We all want to be entertained. We all want to see good attacking football. And at the moment, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing progress from the team, in my opinion. I'm going to put a poll question out there. Poll question. Do you feel that Rangers are now moving in the right direction on the pitch? We're going to go for on the pitch. I'm going to put 3 options in there. My 3 options are yes, no, and jury is still out. Okay, that's my 3 options that I'm going to put on that poll. So have a vote. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what your feelings are. So do you think Rangers are moving in the right direction? Yes. If you do, then vote yes. If you don't, then vote no. And if you think the jury is still out, Clement's still got something to prove, the players have still got a lot to prove, then vote jury is still out. That's what I want to see, guys. Let's kind of do that. Let's kind of see if we can, if we can do that. Let's see if we can kind of get a sort of a gut feeling of where we're at, where we are, at this moment in time as a football club, moving forward. Right, guys, let's have a little look, shall we? Look, I mean, at the moment, there's an awful lot of... Where's my camera gone? Why's my camera gone off? My camera has now gone off. There we go. Weird. Right, there's an awful lot of thoughts about, transfers, January. What do we need? As a club, what do we need? Where do we still need to develop? Where do we still need to build this club forward? Where do we need to go and buy players at this moment in time? Where are the weak spots? Where are the where are the areas we still need to strengthen? So in the live chat, let's get your thoughts. Where are the areas we still need to strengthen in your opinion? What bits, whereabouts the park do you want to see some players brought in January? Now, look, this might all be pie in the sky. We might have zero money. We might have no money. We might have nothing at all. So you never know. You never know. Now, obviously, there's a few names that are coming up at the moment, a few names that seem to be coming up. There's a few names that are persistently coming up as well. There's a few names that have been mentioned a number of times. And you tend to find when links come up time and time again, and it's the same names over and over again, that there actually could be a little bit of truth in that. There could be a little bit of, actual genuine interest there. You'd never find out, obviously, if it doesn't come off, it doesn't move through. Now, 3 of the names that are coming up persistently at this moment in time are Marco Soldo, Darius Olaru, who I called Dennis last night, and Joe Gelhardt. Kings says we've got a clown manager and no money, going to take us 20 years to catch Celtics. I think Kings obviously very much in the Clement out area of that. Like I said, Kings, I think we're moving in the right direction. I think it's going to take time. Yes, I would. I mean, if we end up losing, the next couple of games, then yeah, fair enough, mate. And I think if we lose to Celtic on the second, then yeah, I think you may be right. But look, it is what it is at the moment. Look, the names that have been linked: Soldo, Olaru, and Gelhardt. We'll talk about those in a minute. CJ says maybe one centre back, get Dessers off the wage bill, and bring up Lovelace. I mean, that's a good shout. Didn't Lovelace score the other night? He played well. Apparently, scored as well. I agree on the centre-back thing. I think, if you look at our centre-back depth at this moment in time, you've got Suter, obviously, but he's out for several weeks, which does actually really worry me. Having no John Suter is a concern, because you then, for looking at Proper and Balogun, you're looking at, in Balogun, nothing against Leon. I mean, you all know the admiration and love I have for that man. Absolutely, think he's fantastic. But Balogun can't play 3 games a week, and there's going to be obviously over the Christmas period a time when we do have to play 3 games a week. So, you've got Proper, who is not really, I don't think, suited to Scottish football. Yes, he had a better game in the final. He did play better than we have seen in recent times in the final. But realistically, therefore, you're going to have Proper and Balogun in one game and Proper and AN other in another game. So where do we go? Where do you go with that one? So you've got obviously King, you've got Sterling, you've got Nsiala. So look, against the likes of Motherwell and St Mirren, I wouldn't be overly worried about Leon King playing there or Dujon Sterling playing there in that centre back role against the likes of of Motherwell, the likes of St Mirren, the likes of Dundee. I'm not massively concerned if Dujon Sterling plays right side centre back, Robin Proper plays left side centre back in one of those games. That's not massively concerning for me. I think Dujon can do a job as a centre back. He's played there before. He's done it for Rangers before. He's a decent player. So I haven't got a massive worry there. My worry is against Celtic. It is Proper and Balogun. If one of those two can't make it, who do we go to? Do you go to King? Do you go to Sterling? And Ciala doesn't look like an option at the moment. He certainly seems to be struggling, adapting to Scottish football. So he doesn't seem to be even in the picture at the moment. So where do we go from there? So I do agree that a centre-back in January could be a very good option, especially, with the situation where you've got, obviously, with John Suter out. So I think, there is that need there. So Janet says, CJ and I, Dessers needs to go. Shat it in the cup final. Embarrassing. We need 2 centre-backs, a left wing and a number 6. I think the likes of Dal, Matondo, Dessers should go in January. Yes, bring in Lovelace and try and sign Tierney and Castanwejo permanent in the summer. I think that Tierney's probably going to be out of our price bracket, if I'm being honest with you. You're looking at what, £8-9 million probably for the player. I don't think we can afford that at this moment in time. Castanwejo, do Rangers go back in for a player who gets injured quite a lot? I don't know. That's a debate, isn't it? Can I ask, if we lose on the second, do you stick with the manager or do you want him out? Kings, I'll be honest with you. I think if we were to lose on the second and lose badly on the second, I think there will be a growing groundswell of Clement out again. I genuinely do, because that will be the 7th or 8th game we haven't beat them in an Old Firm game. And as well as I do, mate, that any Rangers manager who can't beat Celtic is no use. That's just life. That's just life. So I think that if we were to lose on the second, mate, the pressure will grow. The pressure will be right bang on him, and there will be a Clement out. That will definitely be the sentiment, I think. And Shank on a free transfer in the summer to replace Dessers. Interesting thoughts. Exactly, Janet. Even if Phil's story about players that took the spot kicks were good in practice, means a defender and a goalkeeper is better than a striker on penalties. That was the story that came out. For those of you that haven't heard this story, Clement was questioned how he came up with the 5 names of the people to take the penalties in training, take the penalties in the game, and he said it was because they practiced in training, and that that they were the best 5, and the Dessers was 6th up. Now we'll never know whether that's the truth or not. We're not gonna know if Clement's protecting his player, if Clement knows he's getting a shoeing in the media, a shoeing on social media, and the Rangers fans are absolutely slaughtering him over it. We don't know whether that's true or not. We're never gonna, like I said, it's another one of those you're never gonna know situations. But yeah, you're right. If it is that Cyril Dessers is worse at taking penalties, than Jack Butland and Rid van Yilmaz, then that is actually quite a cause for concern. If your striker can't beat the goalkeeper on a consistent basis from the penalty spot, then is he really worth his weight in goal as a striker? Probably not. No worries, Graham. Sorry I'm late, just been listening to the leaked audio of that penalty decision. So corrupt. I hope our board take all this all the way. That leaked audio does not sound good at all, does it? That's a very, very good, that is a brilliant point there, Wolf. Neil Lennon made a good point. Why not have Column in VAR room in cup finals as an overviewer? That's an excellent shout, mate. That is an excellent shout, and hopefully that's something that the Scottish FA may do. I understand Dessers not taking a penalty. He's loathed as it is. If he takes it and misses, I can hear every Rangers fan moaning. If Dessers walked up for a penalty, oh no, not Dessers. There is an element of that, Stephen McCullough. But my personal opinions on Dessers are not just based on the fact that he shat it in the final and didn't take a penalty. My comments around Dessers are on the fact that the guy is absolutely hopeless. The guy is absolutely hopeless. The chances that he misses, and the way he misses his chances is just awful. And the vast majority of his goals come when it doesn't actually physically. Yes, he gets the odd one that matters, but the vast majority of his goals come when the game's done and dusted, when the game's over, and genuinely are pointless goals. They're goal difference boosters. That's all they are. They're not actually goals that carry any weight or meaning. This is a great point. Taking a penalty in training is not the same as in a cup final. Dessers didn't have the bottle to take it and doesn't belong at Rangers. Yeah, I mean, it isn't. I mean, you can never really truly practice penalties. You can't. You can never ever really truly recreate the circumstances of a penalty in a cup final, because the pressure, the noise, the stress is just not there on a training pitch, is it? You know, when you're in a training pitch, surrounded by your mates, no crowd noise, you know, nothing at stake. Yeah, you may look fantastic taking penalties. You may be the best penalty taker in the world, but when it comes to a game, you've got 60,000 people screaming. You've got the shit, if I miss this, we lose the final. It's on me. You know, everyone else has been perfect. I've got to score. And it starts to bounce around your head and you start to get that uncertainty. It becomes very stressful, doesn't it? Very stressful. Remember, Ronaldo held off taking a pen due to him wanting the glory. Never got to take one. True. Casper's shithousing would have made Dessers cry. Might have well done. Might have done. Getting back to these three names, though, that I mentioned a few moments ago, Soldo, Olaru and Gelhardt. So Soldo, it seems to be a very concrete link from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing. Soldo is the young Croatian midfielder. Very, very good midfield player. You know, he is a destroyer. He's a guy who can smash up, break up attacks. He's good at recoveries. He's a big unit as well. He's over 6 foot. He's physical. So he would provide, obviously, more support in the air. His figures this season are actually really good. I mean, as I shared on the video this morning with you, his figures from this season: 23 appearances, 6 goals, 4 assists, so 10 goal contributions from the number 6 spot is pretty decent for a number 6. Promising player, up and coming in Croatia. Now, apparently, according to the media this morning, one of the people who is advising Soldo in terms of what his best move for his future is former Rangers player Borna Barisic. Now, apparently, Borna Barisic has told Marco Soldo that going to Rangers would be a very good move for him, and he should certainly look at it. So it's interesting, isn't it, that Borna is coming out and saying that this lad should join, and good on Borna for sticking up for his former club. You know, it is a fact that this guy could be, you know, had for a very small fee indeed. You know, he's young, up and coming, fits with the trading model, could be a player that, you know, 2 years down the line is worth a substantial amount of money again. You know, the apparently top level of the bid for him is around £2 million. £2 million, which, you know, is quite cheap. You know, for a under 21 Croatian international, you know, that is a decent player. That is a really, you know, decent amount of money for a decent player. You know, he's certainly someone I would be looking at if I was Niels Koppen and Philippe Clement. And, you know, like they're saying here, you know, in the media, they're saying that, you know, a bid is looking increasingly likely in January. So I think this will be a massive positive. He looks a very, very good footballer and a very big positive. The Darius Olaru ones, I'm less certain on this. Not that I wouldn't take him. Don't get me wrong. I'd take him in a heartbeat. I would take him in a heartbeat. Of course I would. You know, he looks a good footballer. He looks a very, very, very good footballer. Certainly does. So I'd take him. But the thing that kind of goes against the Olaru deal is, one, have we got more pressing needs around the squad to a centre forward, a centre back? You know, are they more pressing than signing another central attacking midfield player? You know, and as Robert says here, with Hadji and Bayrami, do we need to go and get another number 10? I mean, that's a good question. His figures are great. I mean, don't get me wrong, his actual stats are really, really positive. He looks a fantastic footballer. The other thing, obviously, is around the money for him. I mean, it was reported yesterday in the papers that 4 million, 4.5 million for him, but I can't help but feel that is undervaluing him to some degree, and that FCSB may want slightly more than that. And if you start talking 6, 7, 8 million, I don't think that's realistic in January for Rangers at this moment in time. So I'd kind of pour a little bit of cold water on that. Yes, I'd take him. Of course, I'd take him. And Robert, I'd take him. Even with Hadji and Bayrami, I'd rate him as better than Bayrami. I really would. I mean, I'm not saying Bayrami's rubbish. I'm not saying Bayrami's a bad footballer, but I'm not massively impressed with him, if I'm being honest with you. Not for the 4.5 million we paid for him. I'm not. And I know some of that is because Clement has played him out of position. Don't get me wrong. Playing him on the left wing when he's not a left winger, I don't think is the best policy. But maybe once we get Cortez back, once he can play in the number 10 role consistently, maybe we might see a better Bayrami. You never know. But look, I'd take Olaru, but I'm pouring a bit of cold water on this one because I do think that when we sit down and we look at it in the cold light of day, we probably need a centre back, we probably need a 6, we probably need a centre forward, we may need a right winger. So there's a number of other positions we perhaps have a more pressing need to go and address in this transfer window rather than looking at buying another number 10. And if it comes to the summer and he's still available, then I'd say go for it in the summer because there's a likelihood that Hadji gets moved on in the summer. He's only got a year left on his deal. Perhaps we cut our losses on Bayrami. Who knows what happens in the summer? But certainly in the summer I'd be looking at him for definite. On the Joe Gelhardt thing, and Airwolf, I'll get to your comment in a minute. But on the Joe Gelhardt one, this Joe Gelhardt Rangers. For those of you who don't know who Joe Gelhardt is the Leeds United number 10 stroke striker stroke attacking midfield player. Wouldn't take him. Would not take Joe Gelhardt. Sorry, would not have him play. I've watched Joe Gelhardt a lot. I've seen him play in the EFL Championship. I've seen him play a lot of games for Sunderland. My mum was a Sunderland fan. Sunderland used him as a striker and he was appalling. He was poor. He scored 3 goals in 23 appearances. It was not very good indeed. So Joe Gelhardt, for me, is a massive no-no. A massive, massive no-no. I would not be looking at Joe Gelhardt. I would not be spending any money on Joe Gelhardt. Gelhardt, I think, was a very, very promising player, but I don't think he is now decent enough. I would not be going for Joe Gelhardt for definitely not taking him. And I'll be honest with you, I'd be actually quite upset if we went and signed Joe Gelhardt in the January transfer window. Even on loan, I just think that, if you're going to bring him in, where are you going to play him? You're going to play him as a 10? Well, we don't need him. We've got Hadji, we've got Bayrami, Danilo can play as a 10, so we don't need him. You're going to play him as a striker? Well, we've got Hamza, we've got Danilo, Lovelace. We don't need him. He's just a player we don't really need, a player that doesn't really fit into our team anywhere. The need, if Joe Gelhardt was coming off the back of scoring 20 goals, and we're taking him on loan and playing him as a striker, fair enough. But for me, we don't need Joe Gelhardt. He just doesn't look like a player. Like I said, I don't rate him at all. I genuinely don't rate the lad. Like I said, I've watched him play a lot and I do not rate him in the slightest. Would I take Sam Dalby? 13 appearances, 8 goals. That's the Dundee United player. Came from Morecambe, I think it was, 25 years old. Yeah, I'd take him with that sort of record. Better than Dessers. Definitely take him. Absolutely. We need a decent player to play alongside Hamza. That's if the greedy board don't cash in on Hamza in January. I mean, obviously that feeds onto what we were discussing on the pod last night about the prospective bids from English clubs, West Ham, Everton, Bournemouth, Brentford, for Hamza Igaman, who is apparently impressing teams south of the border. We'll touch a little bit on that shortly. My worry is if we actually got anyone in January, how long before they're ready to be actually in the team? We haven't the fastest at bringing players in. Even Igman, I feel, was forced in early. I mean, that's a good point, CJ and I think, that there has been, there has really been a situation where players have taken an awful long time at Rangers, and it seems more than any other club to settle in. And you've got to kind of ask what's happening in training, what's happening with the player, to take that long to bed in. And Clement can talk all he wants about, it takes players different lengths of time to settle in. Well, to some degree, yes, you're right, Philippe. But if you look at other clubs around the world, then that's not true, is it? So I don't know. You've got to ask kind of what's going wrong at Rangers for that to happen. Fair dues, Owen. Yeah, as you say, Bayrami has been played out of position. If we sign Olaru, I wouldn't complain, but I agree. More pressing positions like centre back. I don't know much about him. Wolf, I'll have a look into him. I'll make a note of his name now on my little notepad here and have a look. Fiznik Aslani. We'll look into him. The only problem with Danilo and Cortez is keeping them fit, which hasn't been successful so far. Janet, you're right. There is obviously that big worry, isn't there? With those two, they are out an awful lot. They miss a lot of football, don't they? They do miss a genuine amount of football, and it is a worry, isn't it? I mean, I saw a joke this morning on social media where someone said that someone stood on Danilo's foot yesterday at a hospital and he's out for the rest of the season. I mean, he's not, but that was the joke that kind of was going round. So look, let's talk a little bit, shall we, about this whole poll is, do you feel that Rangers are now moving in the right direction on the pitch? 50% of you voted yes, 20% of you voted no, and 32% of you have voted jury is still out. Interesting. For those of you who are voting jury still out, what would it take for you to vote yes? What would it take for you to vote yes? Let me know in the live chat what it would take for you to vote yes in that situation. In terms of Rangers moving in the right direction. How would you feel about, what would make you actually say, yeah, they're moving in the right direction. They are actually moving in the right direction. Okay, so we've just had a statement in the last few seconds from Rangers on the whole incident. Okay, this is what a Rangers spokesperson has said in response to the Willie Collum comments. Rangers FC notes the Scottish FA's admission of an officiating failure following the non-award of a penalty to Rangers in Sunday's Premier Sports Cup final and welcomes the transparency from the Scottish FA. However, such a failure to occur during one of Scotland's showcase matches is not only hugely disappointing for the club and its supporters, but also damaging for the credibility of Scottish football more widely. We acknowledge the Scottish FA's determination to use this and other decision-making failures as opportunities to drive improvements in officiating. As a club, we will continue to engage with the Scottish FA in an attempt to improve officiating standards for the benefit of all clubs in Scotland. What is your take on that statement? The interesting paragraph for me is the however paragraph. However, the failure to occur during one of Scotland's showcase matches is not only hugely disappointing for the club and its supporters, but also damaging for the credibility of Scottish football. So questioning the credibility of Scottish football, questioning what is happening. Now, some people will say that is a weak statement, and reading social media now, there is a lot of people commenting weak as peers, weak statement, weak whatever, not good enough. The only thing is, realistically, what can they do? What can Rangers do? What can we actually do about it that's going to have any effect? What we're going to do? Call for an investigation? Who's going to do it? The Scottish FA? They're going to investigate themselves? That's not going to work, is it? They can appeal to UEFA, but UEFA ain't going to get involved. They're just not going to bother. Realistically, they could come out and they could allege anything. They could allege corruption. They could allege, just whatever they want. But the problem we've got, guys, and I think we've got to kind of realise this, is there's nothing the club can actually physically do other than protest, other than say this is not good enough, other than start to, to raise this as a constant concern and keep on the SFA's back and keep on complaining and keep on moaning and keep on whinging at them like Celtic do. That's all they can do. There literally is nothing they can do as a club. They can demand the sacking of Muir and O'Connor, but at the end of the day, the SFA don't need to listen to them. They can say that we never want Muir and O'Connor to referee another Rangers game, but again, they don't need to listen to them. So, the club's in a. I mean, you know me. I will call out bullshit when I hear bullshit. I will call it out. And if I think that Rangers are behaving badly, if I think that Rangers are doing the wrong thing, I'll call them out. I'll say that it's rubbish. That will slaughter the club when it does the wrong thing. But I'll actually back them in this aspect. There's literally nothing they can do. There is literally nothing they can do. They cannot come out and do anything in the media, in public that's going to have any effect, because whatever they say is going to have no effect. It ain't going to change the result. It ain't going to change what happens in Scottish football. It just isn't. It's not going to change anything. And it's pointless to try and argue otherwise. Rangers are moving in the right direction, but have to be consistent. Beat the team and stop changing players week in, week out. Stick to the plan. Yeah, absolutely. Hope Captain Picard keeps the pressure on the SFA. Would welcome Neil Lennon's shout, as it would force VR to play it by the book. That's a good shout about, Willie Collum been there for finals. That's a good shout. What would say is maybe weak statement, but what they're saying behind the scenes. Oh, that's a good point. Well, you don't know what they're saying to the SFA behind the scenes. They may be saying something completely different to the SFA in terms of what their expectations are and what their actual comment is. They've also got to be careful legally. If Rangers were to come out today and were to say that there's corruption, to say that there's bias, to say that there's a pro-Celtic, refereeing corps, they could end themselves in a lot of legal troubles. And we know that Rangers, are very good at getting themselves into legal trouble, but we need to stay out of those legal troubles. We can't afford to be fighting any more legal battles. They just genuinely cannot come out and say it. It just isn't a possibility. I agree. I think Muir and O'Connor should never be allowed to referee again, mate, but they will be. They'll be allowed to referee again. They'll be kept down for a couple of weeks and then they'll be back again. We know that, mate. You know that. I know that. We all know that. So look, the statement is the statement. It is what it is. The club can't do any more. We like I said at the start. I haven't yet, mate. I just have not had time. I will do, mate. I promise you, I will do. The issue that I've got at the moment is I am literally working. I'm on a day off today, but other than that, I am literally working 12-hour shifts. I'm literally working 50, 60 hours a week. With it being the run up to Christmas, because I'm a retail manager, I'm literally working 50, 60 hours a week at this moment in time. Yeah, true. I suppose that's a good point there. But yeah, look, where were we? We were talking about players, weren't we? So look, I mean, if we look at the January transfer window, for me, you've got to prioritise where the areas are that we need to strengthen. You've got to prioritise, you've got to prioritise it in terms of this is an ongoing mission. This is an ongoing rebuild. This is a situation where, look, realistically in January is a seller's market. January is not a buyer's market, because clubs hold other clubs to ransom in January. You can't get bargains in January. Well, you can, but it very rarely happens. And, if a club knows, if a club knows that you want a centre forward, or they know you want a centre back, or they know you want their centre forward or their centre back, and they know you're desperate, they'll hold you to ransom because they think they can get the max value for them. You don't blame them. You don't blame them. We would hopefully do the same. That if we knew that a club really wanted Hamza and they were desperate, we'd stick 5 million on the asking price or 10 million on the asking price and fleece some more money out of them because they're desperate. I mean, you can do that to English clubs, but we've obviously got to look at this in terms of mission. So hopefully, what is happening at this point in time is that Coppern and Stewart and Clement are sitting down and saying, right, what is the pressing need for January? What do we need to get in January, and what can wait till the summer? What have we got enough? Where have we got enough, just enough to get by until the end of the season with? But where is an absolute desperate need? Where is it at the moment that we need to bring in a player? Where do we need to buy a player? Now, for me, obviously, I think centre back, right back is kind of an area there that we need to look at. Obviously, with Casanwejo going back to Feyenoord, I think that is a very real concern there. With obviously Casanwejo not probably been out to the end of the season, we do, I think, need to replace him. I still believe very strongly that we need a centre forward. I think that is a really, really big area of need. Like I think Janet said, we can't rely on Danilo to stay fit. Dessers is shite. Hamza's a young lad. He's playing well at the moment, but we know with a lot of young lads, they come in, they burn really brightly, and then suddenly they have a dip, and it's how you manage that dip. It's how you manage that fall off. So I think, personally speaking, we need a centre forward, we need a centre back, and we need a number 6 in this window. If we could come out of the January transfer window with a centre forward, within the centre back, stroke right back, and we could come out and another number 6, then yeah, I'd be happy. That would do me for this window. It really genuinely would. Soldo could be the 6. Centre forward, I don't know. Hopefully it's not Joe Gelhardt, because like I said, he's not very good. So I mean, Airwolf. I'm more hopeful now that they won't, shall we say, with Patrick Stewart there, with Niels Coppen there. I'm more hopeful they won't, and that they will keep hold of him until at least the summer, and then if he's still in demand, then get really big money for him. So I'm hopeful that they'll hang on to him for the rest of the season, and then it may be January summer when they sell him for a lot of money. But I'm hopeful that with Stewart there, with Coppen there, with Clement having an input as well, it won't happen in January, mate. It won't happen in January. Rangers have to hold out for big money for Hamza, as these English teams will sell him on in the future, as he turns out to be shit hot. Absolutely agree with you on that one. We do. No more of this percentage on profit or sale crap like with Bassi, just percentage of whatever the fee is. Agreed. If we do end up selling Hamza in the summer, and for me, it's got to be the summer, not January. I mean, preferably it's not at all, and we hang on to him for another couple of seasons. But, if it is a situation we do sell him in the summer, then, yeah, it needs to be we want 15, 20 million for him, and we want 20% of any future sell, any transfer fee. And that is the absolute basic that we go with. And if a club won't pay it, if a club won't pay the money, or they won't give you the sell-on fee, you don't sell to them. The guy's under contract until 2029. He's under contract for another 5 years. So realistically, there's nothing they can do about it. And the fact that he's got 5 years to run on his contract means they're going to have to pay that money. Yes, if he had 12 months, 18 months left on his deal, you wouldn't get anywhere near that, and you probably wouldn't get the sell-on you want. But with 5 years there, they really can go to a club and say, no, unless you're going to give us 15 million, 20 million and a 20% sell-on, you ain't getting him. No chance. Fuck off. Not happening. Definitely not happening. So for me, Hamza, I think hopefully stays through January. And if he does go, it's not until the summer. If it is in the summer, then hopefully it's for a big fee, and it's got to be with a sell-on, because I think Janet's right. If Hamza was to go to somewhere like, right, no disrespect to these clubs, but if Hamza was to go to Bournemouth, to Brentford, to West Ham, to Everton, and he then turns out to be a good footballer. Let's say he goes to Everton and he scores 15 goals or 10 goals, 15 goals in the second half of the season. And then he starts next season and scores another 10 to 15 goals, right? Then you're going to have clubs at the top of the league. You're going to have the Newcastles, the Aston Villas, the Manchester Cities, the Chelseas and everything looking at him then and saying, oh, I like this lad. He looks a good footballer. Let's go in for him. Because realistically, if you move to the Premier League, and like I said, no disrespect to West Ham, no disrespect to Everton, no disrespect to Bournemouth or to any of those clubs, but they are stepping stone clubs. They are stepping stone clubs to the big clubs. If you said in England, who are the big clubs? Who are the clubs you would go to? Who are the big, the big top teams in England? It's Liverpool, it's Manchester City, it's Manchester United, it's Tottenham, it's Arsenal, it's Chelsea, it's Villa. It's Newcastle. They're the big clubs. They're the 8 big clubs in England. The clubs outside that top 8 are not big clubs. They're not clubs that can afford to hang on to players for as long as they want and never have to sell them. That just isn't them. So if he does go to a club like Everton or a club like West Ham, and he's good, then 18 months down the line, 12 months down the line, big clubs are going to come knocking. Big clubs are going to want him. And yeah, there is going to be a big sell-on and a big fee. And if we can get a decent sell-on in there, then that's definitely got to be something that happens. Absolutely. Absolutely. We need to look at other income streams, and hopefully Coppen, will do that. Worry being, if Hamza does well against Man United, more vultures will circle. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. But like I said, I think the club have got to be determined to keep him until the end of the season as minimum. Unless, of course, look, if Everton come in January and say, right, here's £20 million, which it's unlikely because they haven't got a lot of money at the moment. Yes, there is new investment, but whether they've instantly got that money, I don't know. Or West Ham come in and say, there's 20 million, there's 20% sell on, take it or leave it. You've got to look at it. Because it's a lot of money. It's an awful lot of money. And if the club would be suddenly handed £20 million, that's a lot of money we could then spend and buy new players with, isn't it? I mean, that's something worth considering. I really do think that. Right, guys, anyway, that is it for this afternoon session here on Glasgow Rangers Nation. Please obviously come and join us this evening at 7 o'clock for the next podcast. Thank you for watching this afternoon. Thank you for all your comments. I'm off now to the school run. Thanks for watching. As always, guys, on the way out, if you can do me a couple of favours. Number 1, please smash the like, smash the sub, comment, share, all that good stuff, and subscribe, obviously, if you haven't done so yet. Thanks for watching. Back to speak again very soon. We are the people.